Hello and welcome to today's video. And today we're going to discuss recurring revenue. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up into the support area, and I just want to show you the item setup. So I'm going to just sort this real quick by clicking on recurring and sorting all of our recurring items. So items are what you charge customers, and for an item to be set up as a recurring revenue, you must set that invoice item up as recurring. So if we go in and we edit it, you'll notice the recurring item is selected. Once it's selected, you cannot unselect that. So let's go ahead and create a new item code. Now when we create this new item code, we're going to check the recurring item code as selected. So the first thing you're going to do is you're actually going to put in an item code. So here I'm going to put in alarm.com as my item code. And then this is the item code internally, and then the description is what's going to appear by default on the customer. You can override this at each individual recurring item. You can set a category and subcategory if you have those set up. You will also define the general ledger number for this. This is for the QuickBooks integration. You can set a default rate. And then you choose whether this is a taxable item or, and again, if it's a recurring item. Click Update and you'll notice at the top of our list, we have our new item code set up for alarm.com. So next, let's go back in and we're going to pick a customer we're going to work with. And earlier I created a new customer today called Pizza Express. So we're going to choose that customer. And you'll notice this customer doesn't have any recurring revenue at this time. So the RMR says 0. This is a brand new customer, not a lot of data in here. But I did create one site and one system for this customer. So we're going to drill into the system and we're going to click on the RMR tab, and you'll notice there is no recurring revenue for this customer. So we're going to click New. So let's talk about creating a new recurring item. So each recurring item starts with the item code. So here, let's go ahead and choose that new item code, alarm.com. And there's our description that defaults in. We can override it if we'd like to. The first option then says, do we want to invoice in arrears? Invoice in arrears is used if you want to bill at the end of the period. We also have do not prorate. If we check the do not prorate, it will not prorate the first recurring for this new recurring that we're setting up. We're also going to choose, we can say, do we want to use the cycle amount? And if we choose to use the cycle amount, then when it invoices the customer, it will use that cycle amount. Now, when would you use this? That's when the monthly amount isn't divisible by the cycle into the billing period. For example, $25 billed quarterly wouldn't be divisible with the monthly amount. So remember, the cycle amount is only used if you're billing anything but monthly. So here we're just going to say we're going to bill this customer monthly, and we are going to then set the monthly amount to $10. We have, which in case if it's the monthly, the cycle amount's always the same. We'll choose a recurring reason, and here we're going to say it's because it's a new sale. And you could set up recurring reasons in your setups. You could set a PO number. And then we have our activation date. The activation date sets when are we going to start the billing. And because this is set to prorate, we're going to change this date for our example to the 6th of May. So when we do the first recurring, it would bill them from May the 6th. Now, the next one says, what's the next invoice date? And you notice it defaulted to May. Now, if we change that to June, you'll notice the prorating turned off. That's because we said don't invoice them to June, therefore we don't really care about the activation date. So if we want to bill from that activation date, we want to have the next invoice date to be the 1st of May. And the next invoice date will always be the 1st of a month. The cancellation date is the date that this recurring should stop billing to this customer. If we don't know that, because we want it to bill and invoice in perpetuity until we cancel it, we'll just leave that blank. You can also put in a memo and then when you're done, you'll choose Save. And now we have successfully created this recurring revenue. We could see that it's for the Alarm.com services. It is not billed in arrears, the activation date. The next invoice date will be in May when we run our May recurring invoices, and the monthly amount is $10. And on the bottom, you can see the tracking data, which will tell us when this recurring revenue was created, why, and the dollar amount. Now, if we needed to edit this recurring and modify it or change it, we would click the Edit button, and here we can now edit this recurring or edit any of this data. Now, if for some reason we needed to delete this, we can delete this recurring revenue record because it's never been invoiced. So we click the delete, it asks us, are we sure? And we could click the delete if we want to do that, but we're not going to do that right now. The other option is to cancel the recurring by setting a future cancellation date. So it would invoice the customer up and through the date we put in here. You'll also tell it a reason why you're canceling it if you do that. Again, we won't click Save, we'll click the X because we really don't want to do that at this point in time. So let's go back to that RMR, and now let's go back and look at the customer. And here we can see that we have set up $10 of RMR for this customer, so you can see that we have that there. So let's talk about how to generate the recurring revenue for your customers. And there's a few different ways to do that with an alarm biller. The first one we're going to do is we're going to invoice it right from the customer record. So we're going to click on the RMR tab, and from there we could choose the option that says Generate Recurring Invoice. So here we're going to generate the recurring invoice for this customer, and it's going to say for what date. We're going to say for May 2015. What's the date we want the invoice to be generated? We're just going to use today's date. And then we're going to say when do we want the credit card or e-check funding. Now we haven't set up any credit card or e-check for this customer, so it really doesn't matter for right now. But normally you might want to make it the current month. Unless you're actually invoicing in advance, then it might be the next month. So at this point, we'll click Generate the Preview, and this will show us all the recurrent customers, and because we did it from the customer, there'll only be one. And then if we drill into that customer, we could see the recurring services that we're billing, and if you notice we hover over it, we'll get the full details to see that we're actually going to invoice them for the prorated services from the 6th through the end of the month. If we want to generate this invoice, all we do is check. We could either click Select All or choose that. We would choose Process Invoice. It will bring up our memo, and this is a memo that we could print down that invoice, and there's a way to enter in a default one in the setup. And then all you would do is click Generate Invoice. But we're going to click Cancel now because I want to show you another way to generate recurring invoices, and that's by clicking Invoices on your main menu. And then from here, we could say Generate Recurring Invoices. Now the difference between this one is this will generate it for all the customers. Well, if you do it within the customer record, you're only doing it for that specific customer. So again, we'll choose the date of the month, we'll choose our funding date, and we'll say Generate Recurring Invoices. Now I've already done the May recurring for our test database, so the only customer that has a May recurring left to do is that same customer. So at this point, we could click Select All or just the one customer. We'll choose Process Invoices. Again, the memo item will come up. And again, what we'll do this time, we'll actually click the Complete Invoices, and this will actually generate the invoice. So you notice it says Recurring Invoices have been processed successfully. So let's go back and open up that customer. So we'll just choose that customer again, Pizza Express. And now when we look at the top right box, you'll notice we have Open Invoices. We could see in the main section we have the open invoice listed in there. So we have our open invoice for $8.96 because it was prorated, and we have our total recurring revenue for the customer of $10. So at this point, let's go back in and look at that RMR, that recurring invoice. So let's click on the invoice, the recurring item, to drill into it. And let's go ahead and choose, we could see that it was invoiced now and on using the May recurring. So if we click edit now, you'll notice the delete button is no longer available. You cannot delete this, but if the customer needs to cancel, you would choose the cancel RMR, and then you could select the date that you want to cancel this recurring. So it's going to now invoice this customer because it's monthly, every month until we cancel them. So that's how that's going to work. Now, there is another way that you can generate your recurring invoices as well, and it's a really, really neat feature. And so let's click on Setup, and this feature will allow us to automate the generation of our recurring invoices. So we'll click on our automation button, and then you notice on the bottom left it says RMR generation. So if this is turned on, what this will do is once a month at the date and time that you tell it to, this will automatically generate your recurring invoices for you. And you notice there's also a master RMR generation. We'll talk about that in another video. So first thing you'll do is you say what day of the month do you want to run your invoices, and your option is to choose 1 through 28. And then you'll say for what month, and usually it's probably going to be the next month. So we're going to say, for example, on May 15th, we want to generate the invoices for our June services. So we can then choose that. Then we can also say when do we want to date those invoices. So we're going to say date the invoice the first of the next month, which is June 1st. And then it also has our funding date. So right now our funding date is set to go to the next month. So I'm going to show you how to change that. You just go into the system defaults under your setup, and we're going to change our default funding to the current month. So that way when we actually do that, it's going to fund those. And let's go back into the automation now. So you'll notice that the funding would be to June. So in this case, on May 15th, it's going to generate the recurring invoices for us automatically for June, and it will the credit card funding date will also be whatever the date set up within that customer, but also for June. So this is a great feature that makes it really easy to generate your recurring invoices because you don't have to do anything. The system will automatically do that, and it will automatically deliver the invoices based upon the setup at the customer. And we'll talk about that also in another video on how you could print, email, or have us mail your invoices for you. So that was today's video. Thank you for watching it. Remember, if you have any questions, click on the Support Center tab, click New Support Ticket, and just go ahead and submit that support ticket to us. Thank you so much, and have a great day.